Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before we start, I'd like to give a little update on my first ecosphere. If you guys haven't seen the video that I set up this ecosphere, I recommend you watch it. And of course, like and subscribe, it helps me out a lot. The ecosphere has been doing great. I stocked it with Dwarf Sagittarius, and as you can tell, it's growing out of control. Let's take a closer look. As you can see, the Dwarf Sag has been propagating throughout the ecosphere. And the little clones have started rooting down into the substrate. But I can't say the same for the water wisteria, or water celery I like to call it. It's been dying back a few times. Regardless, the Dwarf Sag has been adding a new leaf per week, or to my counting. It's already adding another to the ecosphere. The leaves reaching to the small tap of the ecosphere seems to be dying back, either from the poor lighting or too much lighting in fact. But despite this name, Dwarf Sag, it can actually get really long. But that's enough about that. That's not why we're here. This is why we're here. Everyone knows these or saw these in a book or even owned one when you were a little kid, but the next thing you know, they die. I myself had that experience. When I was a kid, I bought these and next thing you know, they died out. And now that I'm older, I want to try my hand with them again. But before we start, like I always say, always do your research and always do more research. Now, let's get into more about Venus flytraps. Where do they come from? They come from South Carolina, where it could get 90 degrees and humid in the summer, and they do have mild winters there, and it can get cold during the night. And what a lot of mistakes people do when they buy this plant, besides leaving it in the container in this small pots, watering. People water these plants like common houseplants, which they do not make good houseplants at all. They like water and their soil to be acidic, meaning low to no minerals at all. But don't let that discourage you. You could get distilled water from your local store, and that's what you'll be using for your Venus flytrap. Also, Venus flytrap love the light. They need 6 hours of direct sunlight to be happy. Now, feeding. As you know, their soil has low nutrients, so they don't rely on that heavily. They rely on the insects that get caught in their traps, hence the name. But they don't actually eat flies. They eat crawling insects like crickets, beetles, and spiders. Also, don't feed them ants. Ants carry little to none nutrients for the trap to sustain itself. And firing off the traps does take a lot of energy away from the plant, so be wary of that. You can feed them small crickets where you could get at your pet store. Moisture is also very important for the Venus flytrap since they do live in a humid environment, so having peat moss will help the Venus flytrap retain moisture. But I'll be using cypress mulch. The only reason I'm using cypress mulch is because I have done my research and this mulch will decay, but it will have very acidic properties that will be okay for the Venus flytrap. I'll also use this glass honey jar for the terrarium that I'll be building for it. The reason why I'll be building a terrarium for the Venus flytrap is because I think it's the most efficient way to make it flourish, but I have seen people grow them outside, just adding water to the very bottom of their dish, that's so they could soak it up for the roots. And I think it's really cool to have a Venus flytrap terrarium. So let's get started. You'll need to get the Venus flytrap out of its pot before we begin, but handle with care. It is a fragile plant and the roots are also sensitive as well. Just give a little squeezes underneath the pot and just shake it out. After that, you'll want to break the dirt away from the plant. Again, handle with care. This plant is sensitive. I end up with 5 Venus flytraps, 2 tiny ones, 2 small ones, and 1 big one. No wonder they die so easily in a small pot. Way too overcrowded. I'm gonna keep the dirt and reuse it in the terrarium build since I don't really have sand at the moment. I'll be using the black lava rock as well for decorative purposes in the terrarium. They shouldn't affect the pH at all. The first step will be adding gravel to the very bottom of the terrarium. This will help it separate the water from the dirt when it runs through, and this will start its own water cycle. The water cycle in a terrarium is very important. It's what waters itself. When the water reaches to the bottom and starts to get heated up by the sun, it evaporates and starts to cycle all over when it hits the glass of the jar, making it water again. So in a way, it waters itself, so you don't need to worry about that. If this was a different type of terrarium, traditionally you put a filter mat of some type right above the gravel and then you put charcoal on top. The charcoal would filter out the water, thus it could be used again, but I figured that the charcoal would add more nutrients and kill the Venus flytrap than anything else. Now I'll be adding in the dirt that came with the Venus flytrap. At least then I know that this dirt's safe to use again for the Venus flytrap. Now it's time to add the cypress mulch, but keep in mind this is the first time I'm using this substance, so there's a chance that this could all go wrong. Can't forget the lava rocks. A bit of decor will bring it out a lot more. Nobody knows how it's going to end up, not even me. Usually you just play around with them and see what you'll go for. I tried for a nice rocky mountainside type. All done. Not bad if I do say so myself, which I do. I'm really proud of how the rock work turned out to be. A really nice sloping landscape on the front and some crowding in the back. Now it's time to add in the Venus flytraps. Here you should be very careful since these guys are sensitive and they don't have a very strong root system, so be careful when you are handling them. Don't give them a bad squeeze or they will die after. Here's the final result. Not bad at all. I am loving this new terrarium build. It's really something else. Not to mention carnivorous as well. I'm hoping those red patches on it will get even redder and just pop out. And of course they get bigger, especially the little tiny ones up front. I'm wondering if those will start flourishing in this little terrarium build. Now one last thing before I seal this terrarium, I have to add in the water. Don't worry, this is distilled water. I made it myself, but in the long run, it's better if you just buy it for like $2 a gallon. and then making it yourself. It was a long process and very tiresome. That's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoy. If you do, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.